but I was in the booth and I was going, check, check, 1, 2, this is me checking on you. And I was like, this stuck in my head. Da, 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 da.
You know what's stuck in my head, but it's annoying. That shit is stuck in my head. We talked about your music. I went to the office that day, and I was like, let me check them out. And I ran through your tapes on Apple Music. And I was like, this is fire.
Thank you,
You know
man.
what I mean? This is fire.
Thank you.
Unsinkable was my shit, too.
So Unsinkable might be my favorite one.
Yeah.
There's a handful, I think everybody kind of does this, but there's a handful of tracks that I'll look back on and be like, maybe I should delete that one. That one's kind of like getting on my nerves at this point, or this or that or the other, like thinking of ways I could have done it better.
Yeah.
But that album specifically, or the EP, that came out of very little time. That kind of just got poured out when we were touring, and we met a producer friend of mine in LA.
Yeah.
And we were all sitting around the table, and he actually produces hip hop and the whole nine, and I had never really dove into doing hip hop and all that kind of stuff. I always wrote poetry and always like rapped and did like little things just for my own mental way to deal with it. And we were sitting up there, and he was like, "Hey man, do you want to be a rapper?" And I was like, "Do you want to record me?" And he was like, "I'll record you if you only come up to me and we make your music." And I was like, "Sure." And so we had like a week, and I had those poems in a book, and then found some beats and made it happen, and just like splurged it out.
Poems? Those were all poems at first?
Pretty much, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, they were all kind of dissected, and me and my bandmate at the time, Colby, who was in Rippy Dippy, he was really good and taught me a lot of like how to actually put a song together. Yeah. And he's really good at like melodies and choruses, and so he helped a lot with that EP.
Oh shit, okay.
But Unsinkable is one of the ones that I'm like, yeah, I really like that one. I like that one a lot.
Let me do my intro and we'll get into it, because I want to talk about that song too, because that one right there is like, that's like an NBA anthem.
Yeah.
We'll get into that, but let me get this out the way. My last one, I forgot to do this, so I'm like, I gotta get back on my bag.
For sure.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy Tevin Denzel, aka Tron DeLorean, aka Dago Soul, aka your girlfriend's favorite fat boy. And today, how you doing, Mr. Body? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing really good.
I met this brother at my resort where we work at, our workplace. And we were just rapping because everyone else for the meeting was late as shit.
Yeah, that's true.
They were having a lunch that we didn't get invited to, for one. But they were super late. So me and him were in there. We just started chopping it up. And I was like, this cat is dope. Started talking about music and just life. So he's dope. I'm telling you he's dope. But let me let him introduce himself and kind of give us a little bit of background, man. Who are you, man?
What's up? My name is Baude. That's my last name. That's what everybody's been calling me for a long, long time. Yeah. And music out. It's under Bout It, Baude.
Yep.
And so that's where it all came from. And meeting at the resort, that was a godsend. As soon as you were telling me about your podcast, that's when I was like, a creative and in work while we're all like buttoned up and suit and ties and the whole thing. I'm like, okay, sweet.
And you don't see it that much there. Like I don't know if you know who Arcelio is.
I met him once in one of the meetings that we did. Yeah,
he used to be in theater, so he's like an old theater kid. But he has so much Oh, you really?
Yeah. I majored in theater. That's what I did for a while, was act. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different layers right here. Y'all see some layers.
We're peeling it back.
But I love talking to him because it's like my creative mind kind of goes. So like in here, you see my Funkos are kind of a little bit scattered everywhere. That's kind of how my brain works. But just meeting people like yourself at work, I'm like, it's cool to talk to people, for one, that are not always business, not always transactional, but also it's like you're creative, so I can talk to you, and get different insights on stuff. You know what I mean?
And know how to like listen. That's the biggest thing that I found with like creative people, is everybody's like cool with working together and want to be like, it's all about creating something neat.
And I'm just getting into that, because before, when I do anything, I'm like, all right, I have to take control. Yeah, like I have to stick to my guns. And now it's like, even today, like getting the time slot for both of us at work and like coordinating. I'm getting so much better at listening and just being like, what is my role in this? Instead of like, all right, like I got to take over. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yep. That was a big thing that kind of came about with the band that I was in, Rippy Dippy and the Hidden Hippies. Yeah. That one was cool to me because the whole idea behind the original Hidden Hippie concept was we were putting music together with... We both worked on ships, so we put together, the guitar part came from our buddy from the Philippines. Yeah. The drum part came from our friend up in New York. And the, keyboard came from the guy that we met in LA. Okay. And so that was my initial idea of like, nobody knows who these people are, but without them, I can't I can't make this thing that sounds like this. So they're the hidden hippies. They're the people that you don't know who they are behind all this stuff, and the creatives and the this and the that.
And so you guys all met on the ship. Did you guys know each other prior at all, or was it all just based from the ship?
Pretty much based from the ship. The real two front runners of that group was me and Colby.
Okay.
And Colby Dean, he's got music out. It's fantastic. Singer-songwriter, acoustic kind of player.
Okay.
He's from Montana, so it's a great vibe.
Yeah.
But him and I met working on a contract in Australia.
Okay.
And I was a DJ at the time on that ship, and he was the sound engineer.
Okay.
And I came from the tech world and the theater world. And so when I was not DJing or like doing the hosting stuff, I'd go hang out with the techs because they're like my people. I know what the techs are doing and hanging and this and that. And so that's how I met him. And we ended up being on a ship. There's very little like room, right? It's a boat. And so everything's very specific on where what's at and storage and this and that.
Yeah.
And even your room is like a third of this room. It's a tiny little room with a bunk bed. And so we ended up finding he was the only one other than, one of the safety officers who had a key to this amp room. Yeah. And the amp room was up above the theater.
Okay.
And so we'd go up there at like midnight, 1 a.m. when I got done with my DJ set, and we'd go in the back and we put a carpet down and we brought all of our recording stuff. And that's when we would go up there at night and I'd open up my book of poems and he'd just play and we would just that's where the rippy dippy came from.
And
so
no issues with that? No one was tripping on the boat that you guys were in there?
No, because so it was all the way at the forward of the ship on the bow and far away from all staterooms and everything. Okay. And so it was really the perfect like hidden spot behind a locked door that only he had a key for. So it was we did find at one point we put some like LED lights up in there and kind of had it vibing. And it's a ship in the ocean, so you don't have you don't go to the store and just grab normal things.
You can't go out and get something if you don't have. You have to kind of have everything.
Yeah, you gotta get a little creative. Yeah. And at one point we put some LED lights around that we had from doing some of the parties that we threw. Yeah. As the ship. But we found a little hidden compartment and a little like sardine can with some old marijuana in it, like half a bottle of Jack Daniels. And we were like, oh man, somebody's had this spot before, man. Yeah. But that was cool.
Yeah, I stumbled upon like Dexter's Lab. It sounds like Dexter's Lab to me.
Yeah,
y'all just took a space and just made it like the perfect recording area.
And even like you had to walk through the amp room. So you had to walk through the buzz of all the electricity and wires and cables. And in the very back was a tiny little empty room. Yeah. So it was, yeah. Wow. But that's how... we ended up recording 2 songs there. They're the 2 that are out now under that band. Welcome to the Show and Money. Okay. And those were just made for fun. And then at the end of the contract, Colby asked me, he had already had plans to go to LA to record some music. Yeah. And he asked me if I wanted to go record any music in LA. And I was like, hell yeah. I don't care if anything happens. I don't care. This is just a fun, who cares? Yeah. But if you want to go record it in LA, mark that off the cool did that list. And so that's what kept us in touch throughout the whole year. And we got that whole thing going. And then COVID kind of hit. And then we both decided to just go on tour with it and screw it, pack up the Jeep and do our own thing.
So when that happened, were you guys just kind of like, were you guys working at the time? Or were you guys just like, what? We're just going to make this work as far as the traveling band?
Yeah, it was... He was working on ships still. Yeah. I had left the ship life and I was in a relationship at the time and that relationship kind of fell apart. Yeah. And when that fell apart, I moved back home to Alabama and he was in Tennessee at the time. Yeah. And right around that time was right at like the peak of the pandemic or right at the first peak. Yeah. The first like
when everyone's like, okay, this shit is getting
real. Yeah, it's like things are like borders might get closed in a minute. And so it was getting real serious. And he wanted to get his Jeep up to Montana. Yeah. And so he asked me, coming out of this breakup and everything, especially, do I want to go on a road trip to Montana? And I was like, yes. And so we rode up to Montana, and in Montana, and on that 15-hour car ride, we were like, screw it, man. Yeah. Everything's shutting down. Nobody knows what we're doing. Yeah. We don't know what to do, but you're a sound guy. I'm a lights guy. Yeah. You play guitar. I play drums. We both sing. And I come from theater. You come from music. Pack the Jeep up and we'll play on every street corner and any bar possible. Crazy. And yeah, that was the
because you have the musical side, but it's also like being in theater, you have the performance angle as well.
And that's
and you make your own music, so it's like
yeah, it was an interesting. That's what made him and I work pretty well. Is he came from a very musical background, and he was very like just good and clean sounding. And then we'd play a couple of those, and then I'd come on and get everybody clapping and wigging out and dancing, and oh my gosh! And then once that was heightened, we were like, okay, now we'll bring it back down and chill, and enjoy. But yeah, that was how that originally got started. Then in that tour, we ended up going to LA, and then that's when Bout It Baude kind of became a thing accidentally. Mm-hmm.
So when Bout It Baude came, was that more of like 2020 or 2021? What are you talking about for that?
2021, 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. 2021 is when I met Optic. Shout out to him. TJ, he's up in LA. He's got great music.
Optic?
Yeah. He does hip hop up there. He's also an extremely good producer. Yeah. He's like just really fun and works well and does all the tricks and all that kind of stuff, which is a whole new level. When you see somebody who knows how to do that on that software, it's wild.
Music is making music is a lot more difficult than people think. Anyone can make music, but when you really get into it, as far as like playing with the synths and making beats, and getting into like the sound, because you can easily download some stuff off a website, download a beat, put some words to it. But when people actually compose something, like getting the right instruments to sound right, making sure the loops and everything are good. Like my boys, they used to do music, and I would sit in the studio and I was like, they'd be in there for like 8.5, 9 hours. Yeah. And they would crank out like, 4 or 5 songs, but it would be always 1 or 2 of them to where they were like, this one is, to me, I was like, my ears were like, it sounds great. And they're like, this is trash. Yep. I'm like, what do you mean? It sounds so hard. They're like, nah, trust me. Yeah. Give us like a few more days. And then I'd come back in the studio and I'm like, what the
I don't know why this sounds so much better, but it sounds so much better.
Exactly. And I was like, what'd you guys do? And I was like, listen, I was okay, you added a piano here. One of them that got me was the ad-libs. They were super subtle, but I was like, there's like, you have like 3 different vocal parts in here. And he's like, I broke it down. So like you hear it, but you don't. But it complements the lyrics. And I was like, oh my God. Because to me, like I said, when I was younger, I used to write poetry. So I used to just sit there and I would just write stuff, listen to R&B. Yeah. I don't know do you have Apple Music or music?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of them.
So every Tuesday they give you this playlist, like cultivated kind of off stuff you listen to, or they have like your own radio station on there. So I'll go through those, and if you put that on, most of my stuff, I'm gonna say like 95% is like R&B, funk, or like jazzy. Yes, that's what I'm into. Yeah. So they were like, "Oh, do you want to get on the song?" And I would always get on the song, and they're like, "Bro, you're very spoken word." I'm like, "Well, I listen to R&B. Like I'm, what I mean? My shit is more laid back, and like I'm more of like, give me like a good, boom bap beat. I'll go over this." Yes. But they were rapping over stuff that was faster, and I was like, it just doesn't sound like me. But with your music, it sounds authentic, which is what I love. Like I could see your personality and hear your music, and I was like, this is his vibe. It's high energy. Yeah. It's high energy, but the stuff that you say on there, I'm like, it just is driven. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Yeah, it's very that EP came from, I've had a handful of people and family and friends call me up even after that EP, and they're like, "Hey, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm fine, because I made the thing. Like, because I got it all out and made it and did the thing."
You had some shit to get off your chest.
Oh yeah,
like you were spitting on those.
Yeah, there were some things that needed to be said, and that was the first time in the booth and the first time experiencing any of it, and that's what what I said earlier about looking back and kind of thinking about things to change. I'll listen to a couple of them now, and I'm like, so much, so in your face, and it's a lot. And I was like, I've thought about changing it or even going back and taking them out. And then the other part of me was like, the fun part about this is it's just throwing paint at a wall and like seeing what sticks. And it's fun if it works, and it's fun if it doesn't, because you made a thing. Yeah. And the things that stick, which like Unsinkable for me is the one that kind of sticks to the wall, that I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. Let's kind of try to capitalize on that or something. And even all the music that I'm writing now and the music that's coming out, it's very different, because I'm not, sometimes I write when you're angry, or sometimes you write when you're sad, or sometimes you write when you're happy, and it all gives a different kind of style. But it's really fun experimenting and trying to like find what is
your sound,
what is mine. Yeah. And in a lot of that, there's some that are like, I've even had a couple that I've sent off to a couple friends who were like, well, that just doesn't sound like the Bout It Baude who came on the EP. And I was like, I can't just keep doing that.
Yeah.
I could, but this isn't why. I'm not selling it to producers trying to make a buck off of it as quick as I can. It's more of just me throwing my own paint at the wall.
And you can tell if you listen to the two projects, you can kind of see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, Unsinkable to me, I always like to listen to like even artists that I know who drop albums. If they haven't had like the single yet, I love to listen to it, and I'm like, that's gonna be a single.
Yeah,
that's gonna be the one. So I heard Unsinkable, and I was like, this is gonna be like his song that like pops.
I hope so. It'd be cool.
Like, it's annoying, it's super fun, and like it gets stuck in your head. But Unsinkable was just like drowning and dope. Like I was like, this shit is crazy.
Yeah, it was fun.
This is something like I said earlier. Like you could be watching the playoffs and have the songs kind of play. Like that's something you could see on like an ad for something.
That'd be great.
Like Unsinkable is something that's like super commercial, but when you hear the lyrics, they're very much just like the expression is there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the feeling is there.
And that all, it comes from like the same kind of poetry. And even what you said, you were always into or were seen as like the slam poetry kind of style, which is some of my favorite. It's the most like, and that's why a lot of the songs are so high energy, which I also have I don't know if it's a bad or good habit, but everything I do is a lot. If I'm gonna do it, I kind of like, the only way I can give myself enough like energy and courage is to like strap it up and be like, all right, go. And it's always like, just reel it back a little bit. But
have you always been that way, or is that the theater side of you? Did the theater bring that out of you?
Yeah. Okay. And I was even like back as a kid, I was always scared. I was always scared of heights or speed or like going too fast or all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And well, getting into theater didn't really change that, but stepping out onto a stage is where it was like that changed how you can control that ball of energy.
Yeah.
And even majoring in it and studying it, that energy, you know, fear, courage, all of it's the same thing. It's all the same kind of energy. You are just plugging it into an emotion.
Yeah.
And so if you could take that fear, you can learn and kind of figure out how to mold all that energy and turn it into like excitement.
Yeah.
And then if, you know, and doing that in theater, that was always a thing. If you're going to be in a room full of people and you got auditions, or if you've got something going on and you got to stand up in front of everybody, go first. That was always my thing. It's like, I don't want to sit here and let my stomach and and try to hold on to this energy and like not get nervous. I'd rather just like compile it and be like, okay, go.
Yeah.
And then it's 100 every time. And that's literally been my note in every play and every song and every booth and every concert and every show we've done. The note is always like, that was great. Let's reel it back a little bit now. Yeah. I'm like, sorry. Okay.
I feel that though, because in high school and especially college, like getting up in front of a crowd, I hated public speaking.
Really?
Hated it so much. Even like going to like the resort when we have our pre-cons, even speaking in those, like we didn't have pre-cons of course in college, but like small groups like that, I'd be nervous as shit.
Yeah.
I'd be so confident to have all the materials I need, but I'd be like, oh my God, I can't do this. So I'd always be like, you know what? Get up, tell the teacher you want to go first, the professor, be the first one. And 9 times out of 10, people would be like, bro, like you set the bar. Like, I don't want to go now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I had to go first because if someone else
because I didn't want to be that guy.
Exactly, yeah. Because I know if I would have went last, I would have saw everyone's shit. I would have overthought it and tried not to do what this person did.
And then sat there for 45 minutes and let your stomach get tight and like, no, nervous.
And then at the end of it, like everyone's ready to go. They've already gone. No one's fucking paying attention to you.
Yeah.
Like you're the last act. So they're just kind of like, all right, when this is over, like we're leaving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, let me go first. Let me break the ice. Then I get to just sit here and watch y'all squirm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Then easy day after that. Knock it out. Yeah. That's the exact mentality I had, is just go first. Yeah. And that's where the like Bout It came from. That was the whole thing. That's how I've taken every leap so far. It's just been like, be Bout It.
You add that into the shit you do. Like yesterday, so he posted a story yesterday and he was about to go surfing. So I'm like, yo, this dude, like he makes music, he's in, you know, tech. This dude's a surfer too? And then the next one was like, do I know how to surf? Nope. I'm gonna be about it. And I was like, that's the fucking energy right there. That is the energy everyone should take into every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Just whatever you're doing, whether you're a pro, beginner, whether you're scared or excited, just fucking be about it.
Yeah, just go try. Have a good time attempting it. Yeah.
That is epic right
Which,
there.
yeah, I ate waves hard. A lot of water. But it was fun. It was a good day. I even posted the next one saying, what'd I say? Oh, still can't surf. Yeah, the next one I said still can't surf. But that's also why I'm sunburnt to hell. Sunscreen's important.
Yeah.
And I learned that one yesterday.
The hard way.
Yeah.
We went to Comic-Con one year, and I'm like, oh, I'm black. I'm not going to get tan. I can't get tan. Thinking I was a shit. I wore a basketball jersey.
Uh-huh.
I got home that night, and I'm like, we walked like 20 miles today, close to that, I'm sure. But I'm like sore in my arms and my back. I took off my shirt, and I had the coolest farmer tan.
Yeah.
This was all dark, everything up here. I was like, this is terrible. I was like, I gotta wear sunscreen. This is not real life.
Yeah.
The world humbled me really quick.
What the hell is this?
So, speaking of theater, I just want to know, what made you get into theater? Like, what was the thing that made you like, you know what, this might be something I enjoy? Was it a class you had to take, or did you just like?
No, I got into it when I played football throughout high school and all that too. And
Right.
before getting involved in theater at all, I had a stepsister at the time, and Rent had just come out.
Yeah.
Which everybody and their best friend was watching it and singing it, and it was driving me nuts. And I referred to all of those as sing-alongs.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to watch the sing-along.
I was the
don't
same way
want
until I watched it, and I was like,
Oh, then it was great. Yeah.
I was like,
Then I was like crying, being like, "Oh my god!" But so I always referred to them as sing-alongs and kind of joked about them. And then the first show that I was in, I auditioned for. Oh, I'll tell you. I had just moved from Atlanta to Arab, Alabama, which is Atlanta to a tiny little
I was like,
country
Arab,
town.
Alabama. I've never heard
it.
That. That's some new shit.
It is a little tiny, good old Alabama town.
Yeah.
And it was great. And it was a really cool experience. But it was a super, super big adjustment.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I went there, and I was the new kid, and I wasn't from there. And I was always this big guy. So even without my personality, I was like, you knew who I was a big guy. Yeah. And so that's how they got me into the football team right away. All the coaches were like, "Hey, you should come play football."
Especially in Bama, they're like,
"Oh yeah,
you big."
Yeah, they groomed me from I'd be a kid walking around, and some pawpaw somewhere would be like, "You play football, right?"
Yep.
I'm like, "Yes, sir," and be like, "Good." But I ended up in 8th grade. I think I watched the high school put on a show, Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
And I watched that, and I do need to give everyone thinks that their high school or their college had the best theater, and it was always so good, and where they came from. We genuinely had an incredible director and an incredible financial situation within the theater.
Yeah.
And a good leader and good teacher, that it was a very good program.
Yeah.
And it was really like people could sing and dance, and it was like a real good show.
They say it's a small town too, which is just.
Yeah, and it was really unique. And so I saw that show, and then auditioned for a show, and just kind of started getting into it. And the first kind of role that I got was in Thoroughly Modern Millie. But me and another guy played the two little, like, comedic relief henchmen kind of characters. And him and I had the same body type. And so it was hilarious. Yeah. We did a really funny job with it. And I think doing that and finding I'd always been, like, a jokester and comedy kind of guy and always this and that. But doing that on a stage and getting that kind of applause and laugh for doing that, I was like, oh, this is... we can figure this out. Yeah, I like doing this. And so, that's how I got involved. It was in high school, and then college came around, and I had I wasn't ever good at football, especially at that age. I didn't have a lot of aggression. I just wasn't, I didn't want to hit anybody.
Yeah.
But when college time came rolling around, I had a couple of scholarships for football to a couple different schools. Or I auditioned for a theater scholarship, and the theater scholarship gave me a full ride. I was like,
no brainer.
Buy football. Yeah. Which was really hard, because I did have to really sit there and think, could I see myself going a year without playing football?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's hard. Like, I like being active, and I like being out there, and the camaraderie and the guys and hitting each other, even though I'm not aggressive. You like getting hit.
Getting that aggression.
You like sweating and dogging it out. And I was like, that'd be hard. Maybe I could make it a year without doing that. And then I asked myself, could I go a year without performing? And the answer was immediately like, no.
Yeah.
I'll find something to do. I'll do a stand-up or a ukulele song. I will do something. Yeah. So and so that was that decision to major in it. and go in. And even my first year of college, I was like lying to myself about, well, I'm majoring in business, but I'm minoring in theater. Then one math class came up, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna major in theater.
Well, I'm gonna minor in business.
Yeah,
Theater's where it's at.
Yep. And then that progressed from there. Did theater, and I really didn't like. It's almost like anything else.
Yeah.
In the professional world, it turns very like. It's not necessarily about the artistry as much as like what's profitable and what kind of roles can we fill and who needs to fit in this role. And that was a big thing that I am thankful for with theater is like stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason. Yeah. And if you're going to be in theater and if you're going to make a show, then there's ingenues and there's the handsome guy and the comedic and the beautiful and the this and there's all these different characters. Yeah. And they fit where they fit to go on purpose. And so I was always getting, the comedic little side role, which I'm not frustrated about at all. That's the role that I'm fit to kind of be in. Yeah. But doing that and doing those auditions, it was so, in the professional beginning of the professional world, it was very like, you need to fit in this box. You need to be very particular about fitting in the box for this play or for this theater or for this thing. And that kind of drove me nuts. I was like, I don't like that. Yeah. And so that's what led to working on ships or even starting in like the tech world. Yeah. I kind of got away from the on-stage stuff and started learning all about the tech and the building the show and that kind of stuff.
The behind-the-scenes shit that makes it all like come together.
Yeah, which is just as... It's different, but it's got the same feeling of creating. Yeah. You're still... You had a hand in creating the show. Oh, whatever you're the lead or the guy who put the last nail in the piece of wood over there or turned on that light. Yeah, you need every single person, and that's how you make it a thing.
I mean, it's just like at the resort. When we go in these meetings, like there's different departments there, but it's like we all play a really specific and important role to make sure it all comes together.
Yep.
So it's...
Yep, and then communication with each other. That's the fun thing that about football and theater, but it's all... So many people, especially nowadays, have... a really difficult time, and I think it's a lot to do with they just weren't taught maybe, but how to just communicate properly and how to listen and communicate and even callbacks, which I do because of theater. But if even in the office the other day, if my boss says, hey, did you this and that, I'll go heard, and that's just a theater thing, just to be like, just to let you know I heard you, and I'll go heard, or they'll be like, hey, can we do this or that or this? And if I'm in the middle of something, I'll say working. Like, I'm working, hold on one second, working. But even callbacks on how to, like, communicate.
And if you don't know that from theater, because my ex, she was a theater kid. If you don't know that, it comes off as rude. Yeah. Because we be doing something, she's like, okay, I'm doing this, or like, I'm reading, I'm doing this. And I'm like, okay, well. Damn. And then she was like, babe, like, it's a callback. Like, when I shout that out, I'm not, like, being short with you. I'm just saying, just like, letting you know. My brain is on this, and if I sit here and explain to you, I lose track. So me just giving you this little quick shout out, like, hey, I'm reading, is me letting you know, like, I'm reading my lines. Yeah. I'm doing this. I'll be to you in a second. Yeah. Like, I heard you, and I'm going to be there. I'm going to be attentive, but right now, like, I'm in this zone. And I was like, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, okay.
And then you're like, oh, got it. Yep.
It's also like when you're really good at what you do, people don't like. We have a lot of clients that come through, and they'll send me a rimming lesson. Like, I need this specific area. I need this to be this way. Yeah, I got you. And they'll keep following up, and they're like, this is very important. This needs to be done. Yeah, I need you to confirm. And I'm like, I've confirmed already. Well, I need you to send. And I'm like, then
double confirm.
Then they get there and like, thank you so much. I'm so sorry. Like, everything was perfect. I should have trusted you. And I'm like, I take pride in everything that I do. So when I clock in, I take ownership of your block. I'm going to make sure that you have what you do, what you need. I'm sorry. And if you don't, then my job is to find you the best replacement possible. We don't have a suite and you want to extend. Let me find you the closest water view that's comparable. Let me find something to make it to where your program will go as smoothly as possible. So that's like you said, communication is super key. Super key.
It's the same thing with my clients on the other end, and that's why I really like doing walkthroughs, is because I can talk to them in person and about all the AV equipment. It can go to the moon. I could bring in a 35-foot screen and LED panel, you name it. We could make it happen. But it's always, they always have a fun time learning to trust you when I'm like, this screen is the one you're going to want, or this light is why. And they're like, well, I don't think we need that. And I'm like, what you don't realize is no one will see him unless we have a light
shining down on him.
Like, and then they're like, oh, I guess you would know. I'm like,
That's why I'm here.
I'm not being pushy. I'm just letting you know this is what you're gonna want.
Yeah, this is gonna give you the best results. Like I'll be like, you know what? I think for what you guys want, you're going to want to get like this room and this. And like, oh well, that's just so much more money. And I'm like, I can get you the best deal possible. And I'm telling you, for these rooms to be formatted in the way you want them to, they have to be this setup, and I can guarantee this location.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna have to do this, and then they're like, oh well, I don't know, we're over budget. And I'm like, okay. Well, let me know what you want to do. Here's what I can give you. Then they'll come in person. I'll be like, you know what? Let's go back to what you said. I'm like, well, thankfully, I've already held the room, so now I just got to switch them over. You're good.
Fortunately for you, I've done this a couple of times, so I have those already booked.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, I got to ask you, since you said performances, have you ever done stand-up? You mentioned stand-up. Have you ever done stand-up or anything? Any improv at all? Have you done improv?
I've done a lot of improv,
Okay,
and I've done either classes or even like little improv nights at a couple different places in the past. And I taught improv to kids for a couple times at like some camps and some theater camps that I worked. Actually, I taught this is a great story. Oh man, I forgot about this. So I was in my senior year of college.
Yeah.
And I built my own elective. And this own elective was essentially how to teach an improv class. Yeah. And it was the teachings of how to build a team.
Wait, how'd you get that to go?
So I went and talked to my professor about, I had all of my like necessary classes already marked off.
Yeah.
I just had to fill in an hour to get an hour for credit. And so when that kind of happens, and if you're a senior and if you've kind of been doing well and have proven you'll show up, you know, and put in effort, then the program will let you build your own. And so I went and talked to mine about, will you give me an hour's worth of credit if I build an improv class and I do an improv class?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, here's what's going to be required. I need you to do the X, Y, Z. And I was like, okay. And so I do the whole thing, and I write out a plan and how to teach it and what it leads to and why it's not for just theater, but public speaking, and how any group of professionals anywhere will benefit from like learning improv. And you think it's funny, but you're communicating. You're learning how to actually be present with somebody and communicate. Yeah. And so I built this whole thing, and he said, this is great. We have a conference coming up, the school, UAB, and UAB is a big medical school. Yeah. And so he said, there's a conference coming up, and they're doing all these different breakouts, and one of them, you're going to do a public speaking breakout, and that's your final exam. Whoa, and I was like, perfect. And so I'm expecting a bunch of college students, maybe, older probably, because they're all medical. I knew they were kind of in the medical field. Yeah. And so I get there, and I bring in a buddy of mine who is a year or two younger than me to be my like teacher's assistant for the class, to be giving out examples. And I get there, and it's across the board. The age demographics are pretty wide, but most of these people are like full-blown PhD, like getting their masters, and like already have a clinic, and like they're like stern doctors. and they're all like a little, not nerdy, but like
more like reserved.
Yeah, they're reserved, and they're kind of like just taking notes, and they're learning at the breakout to be a better doctor kind of thing. Yeah. And two of them come up to me when I'm just sitting there in the conference center, and they said, "Hey, you're the one doing the public speaking class." And I said, it's an improv comedy class. And they went, "Oh, we were told it's all about public speaking." And I was like, it'll help with public speaking. My class is packed full because all of these people are nervous and speaking publicly. Yeah. And you can kind of see by the demographics, it's like, oh yeah, you guys are all the nervous type to stand up and speak. Yeah, you guys are book people. And so they all come in and tell me, yeah, we're really excited for this public speaking class. That's what I struggle with most. And I had an entire class sheet layout for like silly improv games and how to be a duck, or like just silly, ridiculous things. Yeah. And so I sat there with them all, and I was like, okay, everybody, I'm going to be very honest. And I told probably 50 people in this class, I was like, you were told this is strictly a public speaking class. Yeah. And I said, what we're going to do today will help with public speaking. Yeah. But this is not a public speaking class.
How did the faces turn?
Everybody kind of was like, wide-eyed and looking around, and I said, this is an improv comedy class. And I said, and it's too late. You're in the room.
Yeah.
So I need everybody to put their books down and stand up.
Yeah.
And sure enough, man, I had standing up, and we were doing, you know, all the silly, stupid faces and the things. Because once you realize everybody looks like an idiot, let it go. But we're
honestly,
all out here doing goofy, stupid shit, so don't worry about it.
That was probably better than what they were expecting, though, because you go into public speaking course, it's like very serious.
Yeah.
I took one in college. It's kind of serious, and you have to like prepare like 1 minute speech to like 5 minute speeches. And it's like, damn, this is gonna be tough. But the improv is like, yo, we're here being fucking silly.
Yeah.
Everyone is like me, and we're all having to use our brains to think of something cool and be fucking creative. Like, that's got to be.
They enjoyed it. They all started getting silly with it. And there was one game that we played, and this was amazing to me. This just showed how smart they all really were.
Yeah.
But there's like 2 teams of 10 people, whatever. And I would yell out an object. Could be anything. I could say a car.
Yeah.
And one at a time, one person has to come up and form a shape. And the other person comes up, and you have to make out of your bodies a car.
Yeah.
You have to figure it out without talking.
Yeah.
And just one person at a time kind of kneels down. You might be the wheel and be like, okay, I'll go be the other wheel. And you see that everybody's thinking the same thing. And anyway, contact lens is what got pulled out of the box. And I was like, I don't know how y'all are about to do this. I'm good at this, and I have no idea how y'all are about to make a contact. And so I said, contact lens. And one at a time, people came up and started laying on the floor in this odd shape. And then some people laid here. And I was sitting in there just like, I have no idea what's happening. I don't know what any of you are doing. And they finally made, what I didn't realize was them all laying to look like an eye on the ground.
Yeah.
And the last guy came up and just did this and fell center.
Yeah.
And he went, contact lens. And I was like, that was brilliant. And I was like, oh my God. And I stood up and clapped. I was like, that was amazing. But yeah, they all really had a good time. And it was a funny, they all got a lot out of that class.
Yeah.
But doing that kind of stuff was always really, really fun. And seeing everybody's got it in them. Yeah. And that was another idea behind like the hidden hippie. It's like everybody, I've met enough people like, don't tell me I don't know, I'm not creative, I don't know how to do this, or like I'm not good at that. I'm like, there's a thing in you that like when this comes on, you tap your foot.
Yeah.
Or when you see that, you're like, I gotta draw that. Or like writing, but there's a hidden hippie in
everybody.
Yes, yeah. And I think that's
a beautiful ass concept though.
Thank you. Yeah,
like,
that was the idea.
Because it's almost like it's genreless. It's almost just like, this is less of like, okay, this is our specific look and aim, but it's just like we are bringing out the best and the most creative sides of ourselves, and we want to invite you guys on this journey to do the same. That's how I would look at it. Like, yo, this shit is super welcoming because these guys are really, no pun intended, about it, and they're making me feel like I'm part of this. Like, this is great.
And that was the big thing that we did on the boardwalks and like busking everywhere that we did. Was we had shakers and ukuleles and tambourines and little drums everywhere, and we just pass them out to people.
Just having a jam session.
Yeah, and they're like, I don't know how to play, and I was like, and I was like, it's real easy. The only rule is don't stop till the song's over. And so I'd have people come up and shake, and they were like, nice, and we're halfway through the song, and they'll put it down. I'd be like, the song's not over, man. I'm like, oh, sorry, and they'll pick it up. I'm like, you're jamming now, don't stop. But yeah, everybody. That was the fun thing that I experienced out on that tour was like all anybody's looking for is an excuse. Yeah. All anybody's looking for is an excuse to like drop your shoulders, exhale, and be like, oh, cool. Yeah, let's talk. Let's do something creative. Okay. And there's a song that we even wrote that's out called Money. Yeah. And the whole idea behind that was, we didn't get to choose the rules of this world that we're living in right now. Yeah. But the rules are the rules. And it's like, you have to pay taxes and you need an income and you have to have health insurance. And there's things that are like it or not, or this way or that way, or whatever it is, it is. Yeah. And so the idea behind that song and all that is like, yes, so you can either sit there and not want to play the game and complain about it, or you can play and figure out how to play while doing what you like to do. And like, balance comes from that, and I know a handful of people who kind of pushed aside all of the creativity things to go all in for that, and ended up really not happy. And they had a lot of things, and they have a lot of money, but they weren't expressing anything on the artistic side, on the other side of it. And so that whole concept was, and being on the boardwalk, that was the best part of it, was like, if I could get somebody up on stage who doesn't like being on stage, but get them shaking a shaker, and then I'll give them a t-shirt, and now they're a hidden hippie. Next thing you know, they're dancing out there looking loony, you know? And it's like, there. Right? You know?
You hit the nail on the head, though. Like, with people just having things but not really having anything. Like, that's a bar right there. I mean, I found myself, before I got back into this, I was like, I'm buying shoes, I'm buying Funkos. Like, this is like my creative side in a bit, but I'm not creating this. I'm filling my space with other people's creations. Like, yes, it is speaking to the things that I like in my brain. I'm visually seeing things that I like in so many different ways coming together, but I'm like, I'm not feeling happy and fulfilled because I'm not creative. So being able to tap into, even people who, like you said, who might not really be into music, but the fact that they grab that fucking maraca, they're shaking it out there, they're moving. This is something they didn't even know they could do. And now it's like, I just picked this up because it looked fun. So it's like, then they go home and like, well, shit, let me try something else that looks fun. So like, you guys even creating that vibe, there's probably people out there who went up with you guys that you guys maybe not knowing them now, they were affected so greatly by that. And now that increased their serotonin in so many ways. So that's epic.
Oh yeah. It was great to see too. You could see people, there was a couple of people you saw, like, they're a bit changed. Now they're a bit unafraid anymore. And you're like, yeah, see, go out and try something, have fun today. And that was a great benefit of doing all of that. And that's, again, what drove me here to California. It was the first time I got here, I went to OB. And that place was filled with everybody doing that. And I was like, yeah.
The vibe in OB is beautiful. It's so small, but it's just so, like, the energy there is just so big. Like, it's so laid back, but you got surfers there. You've got people who just want to roll up a J and watch the waves. You got people who come into town and they're just looking at, like, you can meet so many different personalities down there, but the vibe is, the consensus is the same. Like, we're just here to chill. The vibe
that was the best way I could describe it, even still, was that first day I walked down there. The best way to say it was, there was every class of person. From, like, this guy looks like he probably owns that building. This person's selling rocks over there. That guy's asleep. This guy looks like he's a bartender. But every, like, scale, everybody was just enjoying the shit out of the day. And I was like, this is a vibe and a half, man. No, everybody's just like, whatever, just the sun's up, man. Like,
the sun's up, the waves are here. Like, there's always music, ganja, or food in the air whenever I go. Most of the time it's all three. I'm just like, you just walk in, it's just the amount of, like, relaxation you get when you get out of the car and you just start walking. It's just, it's beautiful.
It's cool. It's a really cool area.
I love it down there. We haven't gone in a while. We usually go down there and go to Dirty Birds.
Oh yeah.
Go to Dirty Birds and we'll get some food and we'll get some drinks from Novo and we'll just kind of vibe, kind of just see what the day brings.
It's a cool spot.
You just don't want to leave, though, because everyone's like, okay, let's go to PB next. I'm like, I don't know.
And then it starts the party.
I'm like, I don't know, because I'm kind of in, like, a Zen vibe, you know, Janae Aiko's playing in my head. Then I go to PB and I'm like, I got to turn the fuck up.
Then it's time to party.
I'm going to be hurting tomorrow. For sure.
That's the interesting thing about DJing down here, which I haven't really started playing in any of the clubs or anything just like that. And I don't really know if I'm looking to. Because it's so, I don't mean this in any negative way, but it's so repetitive. It's very, that's what you're kind of going to get, is that house or this music in those places. And I'd like to bring something really different and fun, but those places, that's what they do. And so as opposed to, like, going to those establishments and making something different, I'm more interested in, like, once I get my ducks in a row, setting up in OB with some speakers and doing a set there and like making it more about, like, it's just a fun time with people as opposed to trying to, like, plug in the, you know, the establishments and get your
fitting
things
into that little slot that they have there.
Which goes back to the same reason why I kind of left the professional world of theater and acting. It was like just too much. I just like this too much. I don't want to have to fit in your box. I'll make my money over there, and so I can come over here and do whatever I want outside of my box, you know. And if it catches, sweet. And if not, like, I'm just having fun throwing paint at a wall, you know?
So you started DJing, so you were DJing before the cruise ship, or did you decide you wanted to do it on the cruise ship? Like, fuck it, I'll be a DJ on the cruise ship.
Yeah, so the first contract, I was a technician. I was the backstage manager.
Okay.
And I did 6 months of that on the back behind the stage and running the show.
Yeah.
And for about 6 months, every night, I watched the final number, and I'd have almost tears in my eyes, being like, I love learning tech, and I love that I'm a part of making this show happen, and I love that I'm sharpening different tools in my chest on how to put this, or in my chest, how to put it together. But every night, I was like, oh, but damn, I miss performing, man. I want to go back out there so bad. And so I was with a girl at the time, and she had gotten a contract to Australia. Yeah. And I wanted to get to Australia. Plus, her and I were together, and I wanted to be with her. Mm-hmm. But I looked up online, like, what's the job hiring for that ship in Australia? Mm-hmm. And it had a host DJ. And so I lied. Sorry, Carnival Cruise Line. But I was the squeakiest of squeaky wheels, because everybody wants the ship in Australia. Yeah. Everybody wants to go to the cool places. And so I sent out an email that was like, this is what I do. I've DJ'd 1,800 events in the past, which I've not DJ'd, but I've hosted. Yeah. I've played, on an iPad or iPod and
hey, that's DJ
explain
work,
the events. Yeah. And I hosted the things going on and when and how. And so it wasn't a full lie, but yeah, I was such a squeaky wheel, man. I ended up, nobody in the office would email me back. So I emailed the entire corporate office, which my boss on the boat came to me and he was like, what the hell are you thinking? You emailed the president about being a DJ on a ship in Australia. Yeah. And I was like, well, nobody's answering my email. I was like, somebody's going to get annoyed enough to tell somebody, hey, answer this guy so he stops emailing me. And that's exactly what happened, which is advice I give to other people when we've been out and about on how'd you do that or how'd you do that. I was like, dude, I demanded it. Yeah. I sent enough emails to be like, I don't care if I'm on a boat in the ocean, you're in an office. What are you actually going to do? Yeah. Here's another one. Please email me back with the job, And so I ended up getting it, got to Australia, and I was a host DJ, so like a novice, and then there's a pro DJ on the boat as well. Mm-hmm. And so the pro DJ, I'm extremely, extremely fortunate to have met him and for him to have been my mentor. His name was Zen. Okay. And he's from the Philippines. And he's been DJing in Dubai when he was like 16. Had a fake passport, and this guy, he's been doing this for a long time. Just
gotta lie, and then get the results.
And then make it happen.
Yeah, lie your way to the top and just fucking ball out. That's all you gotta do.
But he, the first night I went in there to DJ, I've never dealt with like an actual deck. Yeah. I sat there and he sat down. He went, all right, show me what's up. And I looked at it and I was like, play. Pick the next song. And I was like, and fade the volume down and fade the volume up. And I was like, nice. And he called me out. Yeah. He called me out hard. And he was like, you've never done this. And I was like, no. And so he took me under his wing, and he kind of was even admitted like, well, you're here, so you got the job. I don't know how, but I'm gonna teach you how to do this. Yeah. And he would Mr. Miyagi my ass, man. Yeah. He would turn the screens off so I couldn't see the music. I couldn't see the bars. I couldn't see the time signature. I couldn't see the key, blank screen. And he'd say, there, I made a playlist. It's going to play. Yeah. Now you just switch the songs. And I was like, but I can't see it line up. I can't see anything. And he just went, and he sat down and he wouldn't let me turn the screen on. And so for like 2.5 months, I butchered it every night in the club. Yeah. I couldn't, dude, every song was like, and then starting up again. But then finally, he was actually teaching me how to really mix and how to live mix, which if you can live mix anything from the 80s back, you know what you're doing as a DJ. And I'm not putting down any DJs today. Mm-hmm. Everybody who's doing anything artistic and creative, go for it, and you're awesome for doing it. With that being said, they do make it incredibly easy, especially with today's music because it's all digital. Yeah. So it's all it is mechanically on time. It is perfect. Mm-hmm. And with that, on DJ controllers, they have a button that says perfect time, hit that, perfect time, hit that. Now it's mixed, next song. and you can do it really simple. And again, that's not to take away from anybody. It's art, and you're making it, and you've got a vibe going, so hit it. But there is a difference if you can live mix anything that was done before the 90s, pretty much, when everything was analog.
Yeah.
It's not all computer perfect. And so you got to really listen and really line them up, not just by the screen, not just by the numbers, because it was recorded differently. And they're going faster than just 75 beats per minute. Sometimes a song will speed up and slow down, and you got to really stay on top of it.
Yeah.
And I was really fortunate. He taught me how to do that kind of stuff. And that's why even like today, going to the clubs and stuff is fun, and you can get creative and doing all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm even working on building a set that'll work around for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm also way into like, I like mixing the Prince and Michael Jackson and Slam and a couple other ones from like the 70s and some fun stuff that's like throwbacks and this and that. But that would be really fun to do one day. And it's definitely a skill it's easy to learn if you do it right, even today, but it's a fun thing, even to sit in your own room and just manipulate music.
I was going to ask you, how does it work? Because, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the thing Kanye was, the stem.
I've only seen a picture of. I've only seen his very cryptic website of it, which I love. I love Kanye.
I know some folks with sneakers who actually have it, and they've like sent videos to me, and they've been like, they'll have a song, and they'll strip the vocals or strip the beat or do this and that, and I'm just like, how much do you have to know to be a really good DJ? Because I mean, you're mixing and stuff, but I'm like, can people just pick it up nowadays? Is that simple to pick it up and be like, I'm a DJ now?
Yeah.
Yes. Is that simple?
Yeah.
But I mean, like you said, you can probably pick out who really knows their shit during the set and who's just kind of hitting buttons.
Yeah, you can tell. Yeah. And again, even the people who are hitting buttons, you're bringing a vibe. And if the crowd's vibing, it's because you are bringing it.
Yeah.
Even if it's as simple as you're using this easy way to do it. Because I don't want to sound like I'm ever like putting anybody down for figuring any type of art out and running with it.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, I'm not like taking away, but yes, I could get you a DJ 505 board and a Mac or any computer, and I could have you like mixing and you thinking like, oh dude, drop this, and doing it all in like 30, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You could have figured it out like that with today's like digital music. But it's also, with that being said, the more you do it, the more creative you can get. You can actually do some neat things and this and that. And it's also all about just, the vibe.
Yeah.
You bring the vibe. It can be great music or bad music, but if the DJ's vibing, people are vibing.
Is there beef in like the DJ community? Is like, oh, that's not a real DJ. You're not a real DJ. I ask because I hear people online, they're like, DJ Khaled's not a real DJ. I'm like, I don't know music enough to say like who's a DJ. I mean, he's like you said, he's creating the vibe, he's creating the energy and creating the project. I know like in sneakers, there's like, okay, you're a sneakerhead because you have this knowledge, you have these pairs. Mm-hmm. Just because you buy, someone was like, because you only buy Jordan 1s or just Jordans only, you're not a sneakerhead. Not to me, but it was like a Twitter post. Yeah. And in my head, I'm like, I said on my last pod, I'm like, you don't have to have one or two sneakers from every brand to be a sneakerhead. You can just have, 20 pairs of shoes, but have a lot of fucking knowledge on these shoes and be a sneakerhead. Like there is, I mean, I guess it could be a limit, but you can't really gatekeep what a sneakerhead is. Because I know people who have less than 10 pairs of shoes, but they can tell you when the Air Max 1 first came out. Yeah. They can tell you the specs on the shoe. They can pick up a shoe and say, oh, this is not nubuck, this is suede, this is polyurethane. The 2012 pair had, better and better nubuck on it than this pair. This pair is a lot more rubberized. Like, you know it. So in my head, I'm like, you're a fucking sneakerhead. Yeah. You don't have to have the rarest of the rare to be a sneakerhead. So in my head, I'm like, do DJs look at other DJs and I'm like, like your set is cool, but you didn't really mix that. Like you didn't really put that together. Because today, like you said, today is so digital. It's like you're still putting it together, but it's not in like the the original sense, the OG sense. So.
Yeah, I think I'm not that deep in the scene over here to really know for right here. But everything that I've done with people, that's always my number one thing is collaborative. I want to talk you up. I want to. You know what I mean? That's going to help both parties as opposed to trying to define what something is and saying you're not a part of it. Yeah. and to me, which I'm not a sneakerhead, right? But I want a cool pair of shoes. And I like when I do learn about the history of it and the art, I'm super intrigued by it.
Yeah.
And so it's the same with like music and a DJ. Like it depends what your definition of a DJ is. Because there's DJs who play, strictly wedding stuff. There's some DJs who only don't ask me for requests. Or there's some DJs who strictly play house. Or all these different things, and it's like, it's all, to me, if you ask me, if you're an MC, you're a DJ. Or even like DJ Khaled. Like, it depends what you mean by DJ. Producer, for sure, he is. DJ, for sure, he knows how to DJ. But he's not in Club Nova, and he's not at every night DJing, or he's not, Diplo or Skrillex playing that kind of DJ stuff. But he's still a DJ, just because all DJing is just really live producing. It's just, and that's what makes it, in my opinion, which is, everybody's got one, but in my opinion, that's what makes, not that the person, the good to the great. And not that the good's not like, dude, you're in a club DJing. You're doing it. Don't let anybody tell you you're not. You are physically there behind a turntable and people are dancing. You're a DJ. Everybody else can like have their opinion. But what goes from that good to great is if the greats you can hear them producing. Where if it's like if you're playing a Michael Jackson song and you wanna what'll go well into it next. Well, if you got a producer kind of DJ mindset, you might hear, well, it's coming from the 80s. So since we're hitting in the 80s and hi-hats were hot. That was the thing, as the dancing stuff was the tss, tss. And so immediately I'm going to think of, okay, other 80 musicians, other people who kind of have what's missing in this song. It's got a huge bass line right now, but I'm missing some hi-hats. Prince had great hi-hats. So put Prince in there and only loop the hi-hat part. And now you just incorporated this piece of musicality to go in this song until you switch it over. And that's like, oh, you're producing. Now you weren't just playing, you didn't just turn this song down and move it to this song. You added hi-hats from that song into this song, and now it's both songs going, and now you switched, and that's
the beauty of music, though, right there.
Yeah, and there's nothing's wrong. It's never wrong. As long as you're in time, it's never wrong. That's the really fun part about it.
And that's what I mean by having that musical ear. It's like things like that, like people in the crowd. Like, I've been at like day parties where it's like you hear the song kind of coming in, but like you said, like it has an instrument from the previous song. But then you're like, oh shit, like is that Prince? That Prince, and it comes on, and it's just like you see the vibe switch. Like that right there is just epic to me.
Yeah, and the crowd can feel it, and when you're in that's a good feeling. And it's like anything else when you're in flow, when you're in flow state, and especially as a DJ, it's really fun because people are vibing with it, and they'll even all know to like turn and be like, ooh, and you're like, I know. But that was really fun on the ships because of all the different ethnicities on the ship. And so like on the cruise ship, man, if it was a crew party and I had a couple of Indian people out there play some Bollywood music, game over, dude. Game over. Everybody's going to go nuts. And then you switch that into some, reggaeton or something like that, and the whole Latin community is going to go nuts, and then they're into it. And it's always fun that was a big part of it that I enjoyed, was the like the science behind crowds. And what you see and how you see a dance floor evolve.
When you do these events, do you kind of have an idea of like who's going to be there and then create your set from that? Or do you already are you producing sets before you even go and like, you know what? I want to do this one here. I want to pull this one out and see how it goes.
So I have a bad habit. A bad habit. And I don't necessarily suggest this, but it keeps me on my toes, and it's how I've always DJ'd. I have no idea what I'm going to play.
Really?
I don't know. I have all my crates. So I've got all of my like 80s, 90s, hip hop, dance, ED. I've got all my crates kind of organized. Wedding music, ladies night, which has got all the Beyonce and that kind of stuff and Gaga. And I have all my crates, but it's a bad habit. A good habit would be to not be lazy about it, and the night before build a giant set that's got everything anywhere, and I know what's coming up. But I don't do that. I go live in there, and I'm always like, but that's the part that I kind of love too, is because you got, a minute left in a song, and you better pick the next song. So you're just now being like, we just played this. People are vibing to that. It's a good speed. We'll stay in that speed. And then you got 30 seconds. You're like, oh my God, put that song, and then time it up, and you're like, okay, there it is, and click. And then it's fun. And the crowd, I think, I think they have a good time glancing up at the DJ. Yeah. I would, and seeing him like, actually like working and spinning.
And that's got to be great because you're not only creating the vibe, but you're feeling the vibe.
Yeah.
So it's like you're in sync with the crowd. So it's like, so another question is, have you ever gone to an event and, like in this case, kind of try to fill them out, and they haven't really given you much?
Oh yeah.
Like it's like a mixer and everyone's just kind of like walking around.
Yeah,
like,
everybody's just chilling
on their phones, and it's just like.
And that's the thing too, is the biggest thing that I learned doing the tour and being like a musician on the boat and DJing and all that is there's kind of two ways to go about music or performance. You're either performance, not just music, but in general, you're either doing it for yourself or you're doing it for the crowd.
Yeah.
If you're doing it for yourself, you're very, very fortunate. And it's not all just luck. You worked. There's a lot of hustle in it. But if you're doing it for yourself and have a crowd, you're fortunate, and you really spent a lot of time getting that crowd to want you to do you. Yeah. Right? Then that's every A-list musician. That's why they're up there singing their songs. Yeah. Starting out, and how we were able to find any success was, it was like, we're not doing this, even DJing, I'm not doing this for me. Yeah. I'm not playing every song I think is awesome. I'm playing every song y'all think is awesome. Yeah. Whatever you want, I'm going to play that. That's why, as a DJ, I was always kind of turned off by people who were like, no requests. Yeah. Because I was always like, in certain venues, that makes sense. If you're the headliner DJ at a dance club, then it's like, that's not the place. This is his set. This is what he or she, it's their set. It's their DJ set. But if you're at an open kind of air club or at a restaurant and you're just playing in the corner, give me your request, whatever you want to hear. I'm here to play whatever music you want. Yeah. And so when that happens, and when a crowd's just not giving you feedback, the best, or what I was taught, is like, that is a direct mirror. Yeah. Just something you're doing isn't right. Yeah. So they don't have to go crazy. They don't have to be jamming. But if they don't like this, and everybody's kind of like just trying to hang on, and you can't pay attention to people's faces, and if they're tapping their feet or if they're in conversation. At this last gig I played last Saturday for Babe Kombucha. Shout out Babe Kombucha. They're great. But I played at their little get together, and it's not that nobody was vibing with it. Everybody was vibing. Yeah. But I could see it was way more of a social gathering. Yeah. And so I played some fun dance music and had some people going, but I was also really careful to be like, let's play some, like, it's a very beachy vibe. It's it's kombucha. It's, very pretty girls everywhere and all this and that. Yeah. So I was like, we're going to drop this to some, like, reggae R&B. And we're just going to start like, now we're just going to chill and drink kombucha and talk. And you could feel the vibe when it switched like that. Everybody was like, play some Shaggy. Everybody knows Shaggy. Everybody's going to get down with that. And then that kind of opens up the door to, like, you knew Shaggy. Now I'm going to show you Vibes Cartel. You don't know Vibes Cartel, but they're reggae and I'm going to kind of get a little deeper. And then after 2 or 3 songs that you don't know, but you're vibing to, then I'll mix in another, song that everybody knows. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, we're back. And, and that's what's really fun about DJing, is like the psychological path, with the audience. And there's definitely times where people don't. Yeah. They're just chilling.
I love how you said that you mix things where they don't know with stuff and then bring them back something that they do know. I went to a Family Street Style Fest, which is done by the Hundreds, like every summer. Sweet. They have like a big open air venue, and they just have different food vendors come. Nice. So they have this like music and sports. Like it's a pretty cool event. The DJ there was from LA, and he was spinning some stuff, and I was like, I've never heard this song, but it's dope. So then I'd have my Shazam out, and I'd be like listening, and then like 2 songs later, some like top 100 stuff come on. Then he would like play some other stuff, and I'm like, what is this? And the artists he was playing are like local LA or local California artists. Yeah. Mixing them in, and I'm like, this is dope. Now I'm out here. And normally you go to a club, you know it's gonna play.
Mm-hmm.
Top 100 shit always gonna play.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, you're putting in some new stuff. You put me on like 4 different artists
Yeah.
in a matter of like 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there to me is dope because like, I don't know, I love to learn when I go anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I go somewhere and I'm like, all right, this is a burger spot, but like, what are you doing different to make like your shit pop?
Mm-hmm.
Or if I go like kombucha, like, what are you doing here to make your stuff stand out?
Yeah.
So even when I go to clubs now, like I'm a nerd, like I'll get some drinks while listening. Like, what songs are you playing? How are you playing it? I can almost tell you what they're gonna play next just based on like what they're playing.
Mm-hmm. But
I love that because it, like, again, like you're in tune with it.
Yeah.
You're not just up there kind of doing your own thing. And even if you were, I'm sure it'd be dope. But like you being in tune is like, okay, like there's a connection here. You know.
Yeah, that's what was really taught to me by Zen, the pro DJ on that boat. Was it was all, what do they want? Feed them. They're your crowd. They're what you're doing it for. You know, if you get to the level of like you're playing all your own music and they're loving it, then it's like that's an elite level. Now you're doing your thing and they're all with it, which is great. But I even had musician friends who were way more talented, way more musician inclined and studied theory and actually know a thing or two about music. I'm almost embarrassed to call myself a musician at all. But they were even kind of, I had some friends asking me when we were on tour, like, how are you doing this? Yeah. And the two things was, A, the honest to God truth is to shut up and do it. Yeah. You're never going to have enough. It's never going to work until it just works. And the only way it just works is if you're like, whatever, I'm going to have to make it happen now because we're doing it. And then B, especially with live music and acoustic music, it was all just learn 300-500 covers of the best, pick a niche, pick a crowd. And ours was, you know, the Parrot Heads, the beach vibes. So it was Bob Marley, Jimmy Buffett, you know, Styx, Come Sail Away. It was all of the fun. You're going to know the songs that we're going to play. And they're all going to be fun. And we're doing it by a beach. You're not going to be unhappy. Yeah. And, you know, learn those songs and go play for your crowd. Yeah. Where I had a handful of friends who would kind of talk to me about like, nothing's really kicking off or nothing's really happening. And I was like, well, you're trying to play music for you. Yeah. And that's fine. You should. That's what Bout It, Baude's all about, is that's for me. That is my own way that I deal with my demons kind of thing. It's my therapy. And I have a really great time making it a hard physical thing and then putting it into the world. Yeah. It just feels like I'm like letting it go. Which if you're going to do that, that's great, but you're not going to like, there's less momentum behind that as opposed to playing, this is what they want. We can go set up anywhere and busk. They'll like it. Yeah. You know, and so that's the two different ways to go about it. And it all kind of depends on what you want to, what you're really looking for. And that was a big thing about to stay in that world is great. But like, this is my first time working at the resort. It's my first time I've had like a stable 9 to 5. I know how much I'm getting. I know what my hours are. Yeah. And so this is a really neat new opportunity that I'm like, this is great because I can, and I avoided it for a long time thinking like, I don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
Locked down to this. Like,
and I was like, I want to hustle and, you know, do the thing, which is great. And you should too. But this has given me a whole different mentality of like, now anything creatively I do doesn't have to be for anybody. It can be for me. Yeah. I got my bills paid doing it this way. Yeah. Now this gives me all the freedom to make it just creatively for me. You know, I don't care if it takes off or if you like it or this or that kind of thing.
This is for me. It's for me.
Yeah. It's 100% poems that I wrote that I'm sick of playing over on repeat in my head. So send it out and it'll be done, you know? And that's a cool feeling. That's a neat new thing happening for me.
That freedom, because for a long time, like all of my jobs have been in leadership. So I've been kind of bogged down to where I'm like, all right, I have to be here. I have to represent for this. I have to be here for this person. I have to answer this call. Now it's not as much that. So now I can get back in here and be like a father, a boyfriend, and I can be a podcast host. I can do these creative things that I want to do. Now, clearly the video side, I got to work on that. The camera didn't shut off on us. But
that's the fun part.
Yeah.
You know, it's figuring out, that didn't work. We can figure this out.
Yeah. And that's the best part is like now I'm really being creative to where I'm like, you know what? The way I thought it was going to work is not going to work that way. Now I got to figure out another way to get this to work. And the beautiful thing is it always ends up working. You just have to find it. Then once you find it, it's like, okay, well, how can I perfect it and make it better?
I think a lot of people do have fear with, and I, including myself, is like, it's going to be better as time goes on, inevitably. Yeah. And so I had a big fear with, again, going back to like, maybe I should delete some of those songs. I don't really like them anymore. It could have been done better. But I kind of find peace in being like, no, I enjoy 20, 30, 50, whatever years from now. Yeah. I can look back and see my own physical progression. Yeah. Doesn't matter if it ever took off. I'm excited to be like, look, it got better. And like, this song was cool compared to that one. Or like, it's all just give yourself the freedom to let it out.
And you always have, like you said, a way to look back and be like, this is where I started and this is where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. And even sometimes go back and tap into that and just like sample that in what you're doing now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So for you, I'm going to get off the set shortly so I can get you to another part of this. But how do you pick your, like, when you go, do you have a certain set to where you're like, I prefer to play this when I go out? And then I'll kind of deviate and do what they want to do. Like, do you have like a certain bag? They're like, this one right here is like my favorite.
Yeah. So in my crates, there's a crate called appetizers and there's a crate called main dish. Yeah. And those are my two. I
fucking love that.
Yeah. Those are the two. If I know on my apps everybody knows a couple of them, and it's like, it's exactly how it sounds. Like, this is the appetizers. Yeah. You know this song, you know that song. This is a chill one you've never heard of. Yeah. This is 4 minutes of just a beat. And I'll play the little thing over the top. And then the main dish, and it all depends demographically, too, like with where you're at. And especially in San Diego, 9 times out of 10, or so far, again, I'm not like deep in the scene and go out and all that, hopefully here soon and as I get my things together. But just seeing what I have seen and doing the sets here in San Diego, it's 9 times out of 10, they're all not only want, but going to be cool with and have a great time with just like the house.
You are a student of the game, my boy. You are, because you're learning. Like, you just, even earlier when I asked you about like, what is a DJ, you were speaking like from what you know, but also saying like here, like, okay, regionally, I don't know what it's like out here. Yeah. But it's like, the thing is like, you learn, like, you're not like, oh, you know what, this is a blanketed statement of what it should be. You're like, no, I don't know what it's like here, because everywhere is different. So I like that you're, again, like I said, it's cool to me seeing people who are also students of what they do, just to kind of figure out who they are and what they do, but also know the pocket and the area that they're in, the market that they're in for their stuff.
Yeah, and enjoy learning about it. Yeah. And that was another big thing is with the hidden hippies is like, people be like, oh, I can't play. I'd be like, dude, I'm drumming on a box right now, barely hitting any of these notes. Neither can I. But it's fun, and people are enjoying it. So come up here and shake the shaker. Yeah. and then once you loosen that up, then you start finding, in anything you do, podcasts, anything artistic, it's like, once you kind of shake it off a minute, then you're like, oh, no, I do kind of have a little something in here. It's like, everybody does, man, you know?
Other than Zen, was there anyone that you kind of studied their style and kind of tried to see if you could plug it in? Like, for me, I took a 3 or 4 month sabbatical from this. I took a step back, and I was like, I'm going to listen to everything from NPR, like certain really conservative podcasts, feminist podcasts, horror podcasts, just shit that I either listen to a lot and also new stuff, and kind of see how they do it. Because the thing is, the key thing to all this, everyone has a message. It's just different ways of expressing that message. So I was like, let me see how people do it, because no matter if you're left wing, right wing, you're pro LGBTQ or against it, whether you're black, white, whatever it is, you have a message, and you have a certain way of conveying that to people and connecting with the listeners. And I was like, how are people doing this? The first thing I saw was people were doing video, and I was pressured. I was like, I have to do video, but I was like, no, because most people who listen to podcasts listen while they're driving, while they're cleaning, while they're doing something. So they're not really even watching it. The video is great, but the content is where it matters. And how do you connect? Even with, this podcast, everyone that I talk to, they're like, well, I don't know much about shoes and streetwear. I want to come on, but I don't know if the audience is going to connect. And I'm like, this is a general conversational podcast. People can come on and talk about anything. Sneakers, I started it because, of course, I'm into sneakers, but that's how I've connected with most of the people in my life. That's how I got into hospitality, was because of sneakers. I met some people,
that was your door in.
So I'm like, sneakers is connecting me to everyone. I was like, even people that I invite now, I know you via somebody I met through shoes or some kind of transaction with shoes. Like, even you and I know you, again, it started from shoes. Like, that's how I got into hospitality and I met you. So that's my basis, but people can come on here and talk about anything.
Yeah, which I love that. That's the podcasts that I do listen to. I'm not super deep and heavy with them.
Yeah.
But I do have a couple that I like, but they're all very open. You have I don't know what they're going to talk about. It's literally just a good conversation.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that I'm like attracted to. And if it's about a subject, then that's great.
Yeah.
But I'm very specifically researching to find that about that subject.
Yeah.
Where the podcasts that I just have on my favorites, it's like the truth is whenever I'm just kind of bored or lonely or sitting inside on a Friday night, I'm gonna be like, put on this podcast, and all of a sudden I got buddies around, and you know you're kind of it makes you feel comfortable when there's a good conversation going on.
Yeah.
And I've even. Obviously, they can't hear me on their podcast, but I've even been outside in my car being like, yeah, and then this, and that. And, you know, you're talking back with them and that. But that's what I think makes it super great.
Yeah. It's authentic. I think in anything that is creative, and that's something that I kind of grew to know, is that anything creative has to be authentic to really feel right. You can, I mean, you know, you can get people who get their lyrics and stuff written for them, and they try to, you know, portray this image. But like I said, with your music, I listened to it, and just from the conversation we had previously, I was like, I see that.
Nice.
Like it's a side of him that I think that he again needed to get out, and you can feel it in the music. It's like it was a release for you.
Yeah.
Like like meeting you, you're so humble, you're high energy, but you're humble. And now you were talking your shit on some of them tracks. And I was like,
yeah, there was
this man is getting his. He's got to get this off his chest. But also, I was like, it didn't feel forced. It wasn't like you were trying to portray an image. It was just like, look, like here I am. Here I am. I ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
This is an introduction to who I am. Welcome to the party.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you how. But again, it was like a DJ vibe. Like you took us on that journey, and you were speaking, and your energy was there, and it was like the EP cut off, and I was like, where's the rest of it? Like I was like, what's next? Like I'm hyped now. And with me, I always listen to stuff twice.
Nice.
So I was like, it was 4 or 5 tracks, right? I think it was.
Yeah. I think 5.
5 tracks. Yeah, I was like, I need to hear it again. For one, because I might have missed stuff, but also I was like, I need more. You know what I mean? And I started going through your catalog, and I was like, this guy right here, he's on some shit.
Dude,
like,
thank
you
you.
can already see the progression, but I was like, I like it. It feels real. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Yeah, it was that, especially that, and that's I'm happy with it because it was just that. Yeah. I had never been in a booth before, never done this before. I toured and did that kind of stuff.
I couldn't tell the energy on that, the way you were. I was like, this dude is. It felt like you had been doing it for a while, and you were finally like, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna take this for real. I'm gonna do this.
Nice.
Like, it feels like great. You record. Even like coming into here, like the way you sat down and like you adjusted the mic and you talked into it, and it was like people come in and like, oh yeah, so yeah. I'm like, I need you like into the mic, please. But like it just the presence, you know what I mean? It shows.
Which that was a big thing that just came from theater is like. There really was. There's zero regret I have, and I've talked to a lot of people, especially on the ships, who their son or daughter were interested in theater, and the parents were like, "But we don't know about that." And I was always quick to be like, "That is every lesson that I've got that helped in every part of my life is because I chose to major in that."
Yeah.
And all the lessons were like, if you're gonna speak, be heard. If you're gonna be heard, be confident in what you say, and even if you're wrong, be confident in being wrong about it. Being like, "Oh, you're right," but there's ways to be present and 3-dimensional and like here, which is getting so lost today.
Yeah.
But that whole first EP, I was really happy with the name of it too, The Informal Introduction. Yeah. That name, and I was like, okay, this makes me feel like it is a very specific unit of an emotion and a time that went into making this one little thing, and everything else can be different. And I've got a couple songs coming out that are different, and I'm working on a summer EP that's 4 songs that are just about summertime, dancing, ladies, partying, and so it's a totally different. It's not nearly as dark, and this and that. And there is a whole, it's interesting. I'm trying to either decide to like really navigate it and purposefully turning into something else, but I'm also like, I don't know, I'll write a song and spend however long it takes to get it working, and once it's polished and signed and done, I put money in it. I'm like, I don't care if it's the same or different. Put it out. There's already money in it, and send it.
So who's like your biggest influence when you get in the booth? Like, who is someone that you might not want to be like, but like influences you as far as energy goes and the way you kind of address and attack these beats?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very diverse. It's a lot of There's one, and it's not all hip hop artists at all.
Yeah.
One of the most though is a band called Alabama Shakes.
Okay.
Are you familiar with them?
Oh.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. You'd be
Alabama
into 'em.
Shakes?
Yes, sir.
Look
Yeah,
them up right now while I got you.
they're great. But the lead singer, the singer and bass player came from Alabama, in a town where I know, and I know the bass player kinda. He dated a girl that I knew, and I met him a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
But her name's Brittany Howard, and her. Not only her music, but her live performances are like it is church. You went to a ceremony and are different, and
What
it's
was the
because
genre
she's
now?
just real and brash about it. And I also love stuff like that's where all the raspiness came from that EP.
Yeah.
Was like because I've just been doing CCR covers for the past year and a half.
Yeah.
You know, and
They're alternative, so that's
Alabama Shakes.
already a good sign.
Yeah, well, and very, very. Their first album, Boys and Girls, is like garage rock, and the second album, though, Sound and Color, they won many a Grammys on that.
Oh, really?
And it is, jazz rock. It's so good. It's just really, really good. And alternative rock, but it's not. It's got so many jazz elements and some R&B swing into it. It's really, really
What
good.
if from the South? So the Southern, you have a lot. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased. I'm from Louisiana, but I feel like the South, there's a lot more heart and soul in music.
Yeah.
Like you really feel it. Whereas other areas, it's like more like the beat is just going in, but there's like really there's no soul in it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of energy, but there's no soul, and I'm just
and I think that's also because this day and age, music, specifically music, everything that everybody's making. Not everything that everybody's making, but like a large part of it is, and good for them. It's if you're making it a business, that's the way to make it a business, is to like make it sellable, and a publisher wants it.
Very
which means,
fast food.
Yeah, which means it needs to be the way they want it.
Yeah.
And that's great. And again, anybody doing any type of art, especially if you're making music from or money from it, I'm celebrating you.
Yeah.
Go for it. That doesn't mean it's trash. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means I'm more out of the box.
Yeah.
Staying in the box like that kind of gives, even if it sells and I'm like, whatever, I want to make things that are like, know, and so that's where that EP also came from. But her vocals are a big influence. As far as like hip hop, man, I don't know. There's a lot, and they're all in different directions. J. Cole, obviously.
Dreamville,
J. Cole, yeah, Dreamville. J. Cole is one of the best storytellers, MCs that, in my opinion's ever been. I also love, this is a total opposite side of the park, but are you familiar with the guy Hobo Johnson?
No.
Look up his stuff. It's
Hobo
very poetic, very slam poetry,
I look that up right now. Hobo Johnson.
and it's very jazzy. It's some hip hop, but it's slam poetry and jazz, and almost very Shakespearean in the way he talks and uses it. And so he's great. But yeah, I don't necessarily have too many that I go in there, or whenever I'm writing any type of song, I don't try to make it like anybody else's. I'll use like Anderson .Paak. I'll use his.
Oh, he's so fucking good.
He's so amazing, man. It's annoying. He's so talented, man. But it's not even recorded yet. Or actually, 2 days ago I recorded it. But it's a first draft, but it's this beat that I found, and the drum and the snare sound a lot like him.
Yeah.
And so not trying to sound like him, but I tried to use his swag and like cadence to it. And so I tried that for the first time, and it was a way more like almost whispery tone with just confidence behind it. And I was like, ooh, this is different. And especially from the formal introduction where I'm just yelling the whole time.
And you just kick the door down with that.
Yeah. Which is how anybody who knows me, that's how I always do it.
Yeah.
On anything I've ever done, kick the door in and jump in. And then I'm not afraid. Then it makes me feel like I already dove into the ocean.
Yeah.
So now I can build a raft and kind of see what my voice wants or what my kind of style is. But it's without any fear of because I already kicked the door in and said some things that I can't take back. So it's already been said. Even my dad called after I let that out, and he was even, there was a couple of verses I was like, yeah, I kind of feel bad about saying that. I guess I could have taken that out and cleaned it a little bit. And he was like, you do not feel bad. And I was like, well, a little. And he's like, no, you don't. You wouldn't have released it if you felt bad. And I was like, that's a good point. Maybe I don't feel bad about it, you know?
Those external voices or the thought of what the voices might say, like, I don't know if I should have said that. You know
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
It's the same with the pod. I recorded mini pods where I was like, I should have maybe said that a little bit differently, but then I'm like, nah, like that's how you felt.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Also, it opens up discussion. So the next pod, someone will bring it up, or someone will hear it and be like, hey, you said this. And I kind of think about it like this. I'm like, well, you know what? I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
Like it's good to hear from other people because it's so hard to try to make something to be perfect and, you know, like universally accepted because you'll never have that for one. But also you lose the authenticity. You lose the fun in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're censoring yourself before you even finish it. And it's just like,
And people, man, humans know. Human beings are human beings.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like, I put up a wall and I fake it just like everybody else does. And so when you're doing it, I know what you're doing. I feel it. I know you're, beating around the bush or this or that because I do it too. Like I know what you're doing. And I think that's, you know, people also know what it's like being honest and what it's like being real. And so that's another thing when people are doing that, you're like, I know that you're being, even on a subliminal level, you just know, like we can have this conversation or this or that, or, you know, it just opens it up and people know. And people can just tell.
Especially in music. Music, people have that connection with. It's like they're listening to something, it just doesn't sound right. It like, the song could be great. Dope beat, lyrics could be on point, but if you don't feel like it's legit, it really doesn't mean
empty.
anything.
Yeah. Yep. And the other side of it, though, is, you know, almost the exact opposite. Everything that I make, I'm always like, I don't know. I think I'm just putting it on. Maybe I'm just trying too hard to make it this way instead of being honest. And I've even had some friends critique, which I ask for.
Yeah.
And especially with demos that I'll make and this and that, and I'll have friends be like, man, it just sounds like you're trying to make it sound like this when like that's not really how you talk. And I'm like, you're right, that isn't how I talk. But I don't talk that way because I'm not expressing myself that way when I'm talking. And so I think every artist and every creative kind of goes through that where it's like trying to figure out what is real and what am I not impersonating, but like I am trying to make it this tone.
What am I trying
how
to
do I
get
make
across?
it honest, but put the tonality behind it?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the fun part. As long as you have a good time exploring that, then nobody can touch you.
Yeah.
You know,
Now, this pod, when I took my time off, I was like, I recorded a couple like solo ones, hated every single one of them. Couldn't stand my voice. I was like, I don't like this.
Yep.
It feels forced. And then I did one, and my girlfriend, she was sitting right here, and she was on her, you know, TikTok watching their stuff. And she's like, this sounds really good. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to scrap it. She's like, why? I was like, I just don't like it. She's like, what don't you like about it?
Yeah.
So I sat here the whole time, and it felt like you did what you had to do.
Yeah.
Like you were straight to the point. You handled the topics, and then you did a good intro and outro. Like you had fun. You were over here laughing and smiling into the mic. People didn't see it, but I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And she was like, you just got to do them.
Yeah.
Like if it comes out and you don't like how it is, or people give you negative feedback, use that. But you have to do it. Like just do it.
Just let it out.
Stop talking about it and just do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. So now that's been my mentality of like, you know what? Let me get on here. Let me, you know, getting more onto the Instagram side and the Twitter side of, you know, advertising more and being more active. Because with me, like I love to do the podcast, but I'm a very reserved person. Like I'm very kind of just low key.
Yeah.
So I'm not on social media every day.
Yeah.
But doing the page, I'm like, I got to be on every day. I got to interact.
It's a whole other side of the game, man.
Yeah.
It's a whole other.
It's almost like a second job.
Yeah.
That I'm just not getting paid for.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you want to do
at
it right with the competitors on social media, it's like they're treating it like a job. So like you better have the right camera and some good content. But you can always start wherever you're starting to learn to get to that point. But yeah, I've got, man, everybody and their sister is telling me to get TikTok. And I know, but it's not even that. I have Facebook and Instagram, and I do that. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm exhausted of doing that. Like, I don't want any more.
The beauty of it, though, like, your reels are super sick.
Thank you.
You can just go on TikTok and upload those reels.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's what my boy does. Shout out Jonah, Barbershop Confidential. But he'll post his reels and he'll post them on, you know, Instagram, but then also TikTok.
Nice, yeah. And
So
just do a double post.
Yeah. And they come out and they're clean on both, but it's just like, damn, that's a double whammy.
Yeah.
For me, I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it because San Diego sneaker culture and streetwear is very, very present, but it's like on the mainstream level, everyone just like looks at LA.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
San Diego has a whole bunch of dope shit down here and people. Like, let's start. So I was like, I really want to start broadcasting more people down here that I know, but also real life conversations like this one.
Yeah.
So, you know, but speaking into that, I'm going to get into one of my last segments called Tap In. So every Tuesday I'll post like a Tap In Tuesday, like how y'all feeling.
Yeah.
On this one on the pod, I always ask my guests, like, what is something that you want to tap into? It could be like a new talent you want to explore. It could be conversations you need to have with yourself or others. Like, what is something that once you leave today, like you want to tap into moving forward?
So there's two that come right off the bat, and they're both specific.
Okay.
And one you're gonna think I'm bullshitting just because it's with you here, but one is for real sneakers. I purposely wore these. These are the most expensive shoes, and they're like 4 years old now. But these are the only shoes that I've ever got that I was like, dude, those are cool.
What are these?
So these are Hugo Boss.
Okay.
They're not even like, streetwear stuff, but I thought I'd never seen the pattern like that.
They're giving off Air Max vibes, so I had to ask.
Yeah. And, but I do want to get, I want a cool ass pair of shoes.
Yeah.
A dope pair of like sneakers. Yeah. And dude, a couple that you've been posting, that one that you just posted, the white and gold ones.
Yeah.
Oh man, those are slick, dude.
Thank you.
And I'm also really big into like, I like them. I want them to be different. I want to get a pair that's like, oh, I don't even know what those are. And be like, they're wild, aren't they? Not quite as wild as some of the alien looking shoes that are out, which I've heard those are super comfortable. I don't even know what they're called. The Yeezys that
that
look like they look like Halo. Something out of Halo. They're cool. Yeah. But yeah, I do want to tap into some of those, and I don't want to get 100 pairs, but I want one cool pair where I know the history and I'm like, dude, the art that came out of this and why this shoe.
You just let me know, man. I'll plug you with people who have them, or like if you're just like, hey, like here's my price range, here's what I'm looking for. I can definitely like send you some options to let you know.
Nice.
Where you can even just explore yourself. Like, you know what, you might like this model or this brand.
Yeah. I'll let you know. And then the other one is I have it's called a Machine MK3, and it's a beat machine, and it'll loop. It'll do everything that I need. And I've had it for like 2 years. My old bandmate Colby sold it to me, and I spent about a month at one point really learning it.
Yeah.
And then since then, it's just been collecting dust. And the other week, I was sitting there looking at it, and I was like, I've got to sit down and learn this damn thing, man.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to it. It can do everything creatively I want. I just got to do the grunt work and like learn the hardware and the software and like put it together. But that one's been on my mind recently, is to tap into that and like really tap into building a custom set. Because like what I said, I've always live mixed.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know what I'm playing. I have my crates, but I don't really know what I'm playing.
You know where you're going with it, yeah.
Yeah, it depends what they want. But I'm really interested, especially with this scene in San Diego, because it's all pretty house vibes. Everybody likes their like EDM and beats like that, which is great. I am getting into the club scene and a couple local DJs that I know where I could play. I want to build my set.
Okay.
Mine, which is like, it's 45 minutes. It goes like this every time. I got a bongos, harmonicas, a guitar. I throw some instruments in there that I play on top of. I know what's coming, and I can actually make a beginning, middle, and end show, as opposed to just live mixing and checking what everybody wants. Because that's really cool, but I've not made my set.
Your signature.
And that would be fun, is to make like my set. And I think especially around here, I could make a really cool one. I could use some really good like reggae stuff in there, because I play bongos and hand drums, and I play a couple licks on the guitar. But if I only do it a couple times, anybody who doesn't know will think that I know what I'm doing, and it'll be fun, And
they're vibing, so they're already, they're not gonna be, oh, you missed that note. They're gonna be like, oh,
they're all into it. And even those like little hiccups, whenever I see a live show, dude, I love when that happens. Yeah. And it also comes from theater. Just anything tech-wise that malfunctions. And if I see somebody on stage fix a problem really low-key and, like, smooth as ice, I'm always like, yeah, dude. There's only, like, 5 people in this whole arena that know what just happened. But, like, you just clip that mic belt back in while doing a thing and, like, smooth, man,
Now, in that set, are you going to put your own music? Or are you going to toss your own joints in there?
Yeah, so I've got...
Have you done it before?
No.
No, okay.
No, not yet. Because mine's so specific.
Yeah.
And it's such a specific tone.
Yeah.
But I do have a great friend here in the city. His name is Bozito. Shout out Louise. His DJ name is Bozito.
Okay.
Great guy, great music, great DJ. But he will remix. He'll make his own DJ beats.
Yeah.
And so hasn't been executed yet, but I've got like 2 or 3 of my songs. Unsinkable's one of them that I want to send to him. And I want him to turn it into, once I build my set, I'll pick out 3 to 5 kind of house songs, and he'll remix it into one of those. So then then it'll be easy, and especially the My Name Is Baude one. That one I got a remix in there, so that's how I'd want to start a set. My name is Baude, and start the whole set like that. That'd be sweet.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta let me know when you spin next. I want to come.
Last
weekend we went to Disneyland. I was like, oh, he's spinning this weekend. Like, it'd be dope to go and then talk about it on the pod. But I was like, next time I'm gonna keep watching the page. Next time you spin, I was like, I gotta pull up.
Yeah, I bet, man. Thank you. Thank you.
My boy, shout out Joey P. He spins over at I think it's El Dorado downtown.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, El Dorado. So he spun a few nights, so I'll go in there and I'll just say what's up. But it's just cool seeing people like creating the vibe in there.
That's where the Hidden Hippies things was all about, especially down here, because there's so many people doing it.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, it's contagious around here.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to create something and do something. And I see so many people doing it separately.
Yeah.
And that's where I really, and it's going to take time, which is cool because you enjoy the process.
Yeah.
But I really want to bring like almost my own Hidden Hippie Farmers Market.
Yeah. And
turn into a main stage where I've got myself, however many other musicians lined up, DJs, live musicians, you name it.
That would be dope.
And then a couple of booths around the stage. So the stage is the center focal point. But like, you have a booth there, and it's a live podcast happening in this little room that you can go in. Or my buddy, he's a baker in town, and he works as a kitchen staff guy. But dude, he brings in his own treats all the time. And I'm
Imagine that, bro.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, we'll give you a booth, and you'll be the Hidden Hippie booth. And then I've thought about those shirts, the Hidden Hippie shirts, being the ticket in.
Yeah.
That's how you can get in. And so that's why I'm starting to hand out these shirts now.
Yeah.
With the idea that 6 months, a year, tomorrow, if I get $10,000 somehow, but put on an event, and anybody that I've been doing some fun stuff with, y'all wear your shirt, and you're in, and then everybody else, you got to buy a shirt, and then the next one you can get in for free kind of thing. But yeah, that's the idea, is to really bring that community and collaborative kind of idea together.
And San Diego is so open for that.
Yeah.
So open for that. So you have a huge opportunity here. It's a beautiful Sunday. I don't want to hold you in here too long.
Yeah, no worries.
I feel like the convo can keep going. I've had 3.5, almost 4 hour podcasts. I don't want to keep you in here that long. But before I let you go, anything, words of wisdom you want to share, and also any upcoming events you want to share with people, so we can make sure we tap in with you.
No upcoming events just yet.
Okay.
But Bout It Baude, follow it on Instagram, the whole 9. The Hidden Hippies, we're also on Instagram. It's a little slow right now. We're building everything up and getting it ready. And then words of wisdom, man, it's always the cookie cutter kind of fortune cookie kind of thing, but you never know what people are going through.
Yeah.
You don't know. And people are always going through things, man, and it's always hard, and it's always, relationships are hard, people are difficult, communication is hard, families are interesting. It's always something going on.
Yeah. And
that always kind of brings me down to like, just be as nice as you can.
Yeah.
And then good is to, I was in Jamaica as a guest on a ship, and we went to this resort little day thing, and a couple of the local guys were asking if I wanted to smoke. And I was like, hell yeah. And so I went down the beach with a couple of Jamaican guys.
Yeah.
And one thing that he told me, I kept trying to pass him the joint, and he was going, smoke, my brother, smoke. And he kept shoving it back to me, and I was like, okay. And then we were just trying to chatting, but he said something to me that I always say, and he said, good is to good. He said, good is to good. And he touched his chest, and he touched mine. He went, good is to good.
Yeah.
And I was like, good is to good, man. Be good, and good will come. It's the whole thing, and you don't know what people are going through, and so that's probably the last bit of wisdom that I got on that one. But like, you don't know what people are going through, and as kind as you can be, the better. And everybody needs it. Everybody needs somebody to give them a compliment,
especially
today.
Right now.
Yeah,
the world's moving so quick. Everything is changing. People are finding themselves in new positions. We're still navigating this world. Like, as advanced as we are, we're still navigating. So having that little piece of humanity, that note there, is just beautiful.
And it always brings me down to where, like, I'm a pretty firm believer on none of us have any idea what we're doing. We're all just trying, man. Everybody's just giving it their best
For
shot.
sure.
You know, and some things might be personal. Some things you could take personal, but it's like you gotta just, everybody's just trying.
Yeah.
Everybody's just trying their best. So, like, take a breath.
Yeah.
You know?
I see that's why I got him on here, yo. That's why right there. Yeah, we're gonna head out now. It was fun talking to you. Fun linking up
same
again.
to you, man.
We got to do this again, not just on the pod, but just kick it sometime, man. Because the energy you bring is just dope.
Thank you.
Like I said before, and in the message, you have an infectious energy.
Thank you so much.
It just makes people around you feel comfortable, but also like it's just a genuine fucking vibe.
Thank you. Thank you, man. I try for it to be. And same to you, dude. I knew first time we met, and started talking about the sneaker stuff, I was like, oh, sweet. Like, good conversation and 3 seconds waiting for this meeting to start before
There's
we
so
got
many people there who like don't really want to talk. So I'm like, all right, like I'll try to start a conversation, but if he doesn't talk, it's cool. We'll just sit here. I'll go on TikTok, but then I was like, oh, he's actually like a
and then it's always fun to like tiptoe in. You're like, I got a podcast. And you're like, oh, I got music. But
I'm always so nervous to say that though.
Oh, why?
Well, for one, because like I'm still getting back into really doing it frequently. So when they go on my page, I'm like, I don't have many posts.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, you have a podcast. There's nothing really here. So I'm like, you know what? Like, just do what you got to do, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you're working on it.
Yeah. Be about it.
Yeah. There you go. Be about it. And on that note, I'm gonna tap out. Just make sure ending note to y'all is just be about it.
That's it. Be about it.
Every single day of your life, just be about it. Mr. Baude, appreciate you coming through, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Appreciate y'all for listening. It's been your boy Tron. Until the next time, I am out. Peace.
See ya.